Well, I'm here today with the unstoppable Cynthia Kersey, who has just had an interesting and tremendously fun kind of rise to a position that I don't think she could have seen herself in 10 years ago. And I want to talk about that and some other things. And how are you doing, Cynthia?
Well, I'm fantastic. How are you?
Well, I'm great, and I hope I'm unstoppable.
Well, you are. And you know what? Talking to you reminds me of the conversation we had on a plane. I mean, you're a very memorable person in my life. Can we share that story?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm on the plane to Minneapolis to speak at a conference, and I was kind of tired, and sometimes I use the plane to not really talk and kind of just reflect or whatever. And you were sitting next to me, and you asked me about what I did, and you know I run a foundation, and you started asking me about more questions, and you know we have this 5-pillar model, and you were very intrigued and asking more questions, and so I started really getting engaged. And I told you that our vision was that every child would get access to an education, and we did it through this 5-pillar model. It's not enough just to build a school. You have to provide access to clean water and health care and training for the parents so that it's all sustainable. Anyway, and this is my recollection of the story. You may have a different version. But so we're talking about that, and then you said, well, I want to sponsor a village. And I'm like, well, fabulous, that's great. And you literally took out your checkbook and wrote me a check for $25,000.
Well, and the cool thing was that we were able to kind of have some fun with that because you went and you used that as kind of a matching grant.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So I got to tell the story at the event where I was speaking. People got really inspired. We used it as a matching grant, and I think we raised another like $40,000. So that plane ride was like the impetus for almost 3 villages receiving, education and clean water and all of that stuff, just because you listened to your heart and inspiration and said yes.
Well, and I mean, it was an easy thing to do when I was sitting by you because you had such an inspirational story. And I kind of want to start talking there because your story is so unique and just kind of taking a bad situation and making it into a good one. And so tell me a little bit about what inspired you to start this journey.
Yeah. Well, so, I guess, were you talking about a bad story? I don't know if it was a bad situation, but
your story.
With the going through a divorce.
Yeah.
I think, So basically, I was in corporate America, and I was at the top of my field. I was a national account manager for Sprint Communications. I sold a $30 million account. So I'm doing well, but I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, selling, telecommunications. So I literally, in 1996, quit my job, cashed in my entire life savings, downsized my life so that I could write my first book, Unstoppable. And it was interesting because the year before that, my then husband, of actually 19 years at that point, quit his job to start his own contracting company. So we literally were 2 people living on a brand new business, when my book came out. And we'd been married 20 years, and 18 months after Unstoppable came out, I'm living my purpose. I'm doing something that's meaningful to me. And my husband, our marriage ended, really. It was, we separated and ended up getting a divorce. And so it was a really challenging time for me because I kind of thought, I'd be married my whole life and just my whole identity around that. And I called my mentor, who was the founder of Habitat for Humanity, Millard Fuller. And I told him what had happened, and he said, when you have a great pain in your life, you need a greater purpose. And he said, why don't you build a house for a family in need? and he had just gotten back from Nepal, and he told me about the country and how beautiful the people are and the extreme poverty that they experience. And as I thought about what he said, I thought, how many houses would I need to build to offset that pain in my life? And I never built one house before, right? I didn't know, I didn't even know where Nepal was, right? So I was completely out in the dark here. But what I did know is that this purpose, I was kind of looking at how many houses would I need to build, and I started, I thought, well, maybe 5. I mean, 5 is 5 more than I've ever done. And as I checked in, it's like, no, not even close. So I thought, well, what about 10? Is that bigger than my pain? No. 25, and again, it was like a resounding no. And when I got to the number 100 houses, that felt bigger than my pain. So that year when I'm out there speaking with my new book, I would share this project with people, and I had I'd raise the money for Habitat. It would go directly to Habitat for Humanity, and that year I raised $200,000. And going over there, I took a group of 18 people to Nepal, and we worked on the first 3 of the subsequent 100 homes that would be built that year. And Dale, that experience totally changed my life because, I thought that I was doing something really great for them. And, of course, it was something great for them. But what I hadn't anticipated was how it would change my life at such a fundamental, deep level. And the joy that I experienced from doing that was, palpable. Right. And it started a whole journey of me integrating giving in my life. And, several years later, I was looking for the next project and was invited to go to a rural African women conference. And that was like that, saying yes to that and meeting these women and feeling like I had to do something and having no idea what it was. But that was like the next trajectory for me. And really starting my Unstoppable Foundation and stepping into this next calling at a much deeper level.
Right. And one thing that I think is really interesting, I mean, first of all, talk about your book Unstoppable. I mean, what is that about?
Yeah. Well, so I always loved stories of unstoppable people. I didn't call them that at the time, but it really is a book of people that I interviewed from all walks of life who had a dream and experienced a lot of obstacles, in making it happen. So, like, for example, Anita Roddick, when she founded The Body Shop, her purpose was to feed her kids. Right, that's why she started The Body Shop. And to open a store, she didn't have any money. So she went to banks and to investors, and she finally found a friend of a friend who invested $6,000 in exchange for 50% of her business. And that was a good, investment for that person. But what happened was, $6,000 is nothing to start a store in the UK. So she had to get creative. So instead of getting the nice, beautiful packaging for her body lotions, she went to a hospital supply store and got those inexpensive plastic urine containers. And then she and a friend sat down at the table and hand wrote every label instead of being able to, provide or get this great, printing and branded look. And then she had the audacity to ask her customers when they were finished with the bottles to bring them back for refills.
Right.
And that, wasn't a master marketing strategy. It was one really out of creativity and wanting to make it happen. And, of course, The Body Shop is now, they've had, they have several thousand stores. And
right.
But it's stories like that. And I think the reason I love those stories is because, when you think of somebody who's unstoppable, typically you think of this superhuman or, somebody that you're not like. I'm not like them. I can't be like them. And what I found after interviewing all of these people is unstoppable people are just like you and me. They experience challenges and, difficulties and frustration and discouragement. But the distinction is that they don't let it stop them.
Right.
And through these 7 qualities that I identified: purpose, passion, belief, preparation, building a team, creative problem solving, and then perseverance. Those were the qualities that enabled people to really live an unstoppable life.
And so then, of course, you used that name to start your foundation. And just to kind of let everyone know, I mean, certainly I've just seen your foundation grow over the 4 or 5 years that we've known each other. But certainly, what would you describe as the core of what the Unstoppable Foundation is doing?
Yeah. So our vision is to see every child get access to an education. And what we know is in developing countries, and you can't just build a school. There are great organizations who build schools, and in 3 to 5 years later, they're empty. And they're empty because they're not addressing the real issues that keep a child from going to school. So, it's that's how we developed that 5-pillar model of really looking at what is a holistic solution that not only gets a child in school, but keeps them in school and empowers the community to really take on the project and make it self-sustaining so they don't need a hand up. You know what I'm saying? Or a hand. Right. This is not a hand up. Anyway, it's a hand up, but then they no longer would need support. So, we've really evolved into the vision is still, that education is a human right for every child, and the way that we provide it is through this holistic model that uplifts the entire community.
Well, and one of the things that is really interesting to me in the times that I've been out to your events and what I've seen is that there is such a different attitude toward the value of the things that the people in Africa are receiving from you. I mean, it's totally different than the kind of nonchalant way that things are seen, sometimes over here. Mm-hmm. And what is just so humbling is the tenacity of these girls who have attended your schools and to see how badly they want these things. And for me, that is what separates what you're doing from so many people is that, you're providing them kind of the entire infrastructure to see that. But then when you see just how hard they fight for it, it's just amazing.
Right. Well, in our schools, the kids actually run to school. And imagine they're in the Masai Mara. That's primarily where we are. And just to step back for a second, people say, why Africa? Why aren't you, doing things in the United States? And I have 2 answers to that. Number one is I went to this conference. The women asked for help, and I promised to do something. So it really is, number one, it's honoring my promise. Number 2 is the best way to explain it is it's like triage. Whenever if you see a disaster, something that's happening that's compromising people's lives, doctors will go in and they'll assess who has the greatest need first. Right? And then those are the people that need to be seen because it can be life or death. And in the areas that we're working, and we just recently expanded into India, it's where there's the deepest level of poverty. And, you have the capacity when you provide this 5-pillar model to really change the trajectory of their life in every single area. So our vision is that every child gets access to a quality education, of course, even in the United States. And we are going where we really see the need is the greatest. And in these particular areas, as I said, they run to school. So imagine, this is in the rural community. So kids literally will run 2 hours one way to go to school. Every day, back and forth, primary school age children literally will run 2 hours to go to school. And when they get, like, they're up, while it's still dark outside, and it's actually dangerous. They're living amongst wild animals. And, of course, the parents, are concerned for their children. And at the same time, they realize if they don't get an education, nothing will change. Their future, right, for generations to come is impacted by helping them get an education. So, to use your word, it's humbling. It's humbling for us. This is a partnership with these communities. They are absolutely committed. And when we go into these communities, they have existing schools, but they're sorely inadequate. Like, they were built based on the community came together, and one person would bring some tin, and other people would bring some sticks, and some people would bring some mud, and, they would put it together as best they could. But it just, for it to be self-sustaining and really the quality of education and safety that the kids need. A lot of these schools are, the weather on the inside is the same as the weather on the outside, and they're just not safe learning situations. So, we're partnering with people who are really committed. They've already demonstrated that they're committed, and it's just such an honor to really work alongside them and to support them in really, like I said, really changing and transforming the trajectory of their life moving forward.
Well, so just so we have it for everyone to hear, what are the 5 pillars?
Okay. So we call it Sponsor a Village, and essentially it's providing education, access to clean water and sanitation, health care, food and nutrition. Every child gets a nutritious meal every day, and then there's a community garden at the school, and then we also train the families to create a kitchen garden, they call it, where they put a garden even eventually outside their homes. And then empowerment and income training, where the parents are taught how to generate an income so that like I said, the project is self-sustaining. Once it's developed and implemented, and after a certain amount of years, then it's handed off to the community to run on their own.
And you're now far enough along with that you're seeing that part of this happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have 2 communities already that aren't receiving any more funding for those 5 pillars. So, but what we are doing and what our partners are doing is they're looking at, well, what other areas do they need support? So, for example, part of this model is really funding primary education. Well, once the kids are graduating, it's like they need to go to high school. So we helped fund 2 secondary schools that are boarding schools for girls. And then they're also funding, they're building one for boys right now. But, we focused on girls because the boys had other opportunities, the girls had none. And typically without getting an education, they literally marry off their children. So the girls at 12 years of age or even sometimes younger.
Right.
So and then college. So we're and then now we're doing college, and now they're also implementing a women's empowerment center. So imagine this whole region of the world that they're sustaining the 5 pillars and the kids being in school, but now we're also adding colleges and women's empowerment centers and really great medical clinics and maternity wards, and it's just continuing to go deeper and up level the entire community with more services.
Well, and how many, let's talk about numbers. How many have you done of these villages?
Yeah, so we're on our 14th community. And, within each community, there are many villages within a community. So what we do is we take, let's say there's a community of 2,000 men, women, and children. It's broken down into, we call it the Sponsor a Village program that impacts 70 children and their families. So we're impacting, well over 30,000 men, women, and children every day with these services.
Wow. And so was there any kind of resistance from the communities when you first went in there? Was there any sort of, we don't do it this way, or how have the communities felt about this?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Dale. We do not impose our way. So that's the first thing, right? It really is when our partners go and start meeting with and to assess a new community. First off, the communities now already know what we're doing, and so they understand that they're helping direct it. So let's say, for example, in a community, maybe they'll say, okay, the first thing that we really need is clean water, right? So we've got, even though the schools aren't very great, but, the water's first. So then, we'll help to start implement that. And then you can do teacher training in new schools and our new classrooms. So first off, it's guided and really led by the community. It has to be that way. It cannot be people coming from another country dictating how to help them. It's not effective, and it just doesn't work. So and then the other piece, so they're completely on board. They understand the commitments that are necessary. They have to promise to keep their girls in school, and really all their children. But like I said, historically, they will marry their girls off at young ages. So that's part of the commitment of keeping all children, their boys and girls, in school. And then the other level of resistance that sometimes communities will see in the beginning is the women are the ones who have to learn how to earn the income. They say that 75% of all the money that a woman earns goes right back to their family, whereas a man in these areas of the world, maybe 25%. So initially women kind of carried the burden or the load of taking care of the family. But what we found is initially the men may be skeptical because women definitely play a subservient role in this area of the world. Sure. So, they're like, even the fact that women are doing some of this stuff and learning how to do businesses, there was some hesitation in the beginning. But then the men see how great the women are doing, and they're able to come together and buy the land to build the school, and, how they're starting to make money. And then all of a sudden the men are like, wow, we want to learn how to do that too. So now we have men's groups as well. So you can see how, it's never, the come from is never forced, or it's they're engaged. They want to be a part of bringing this transformation to their communities, and it really is a partnership, and that's why I think it's so successful.
Do you just kind of take us there? I mean, what does it look like? What do you see? What are the heartbreaking things? When you're over there, what is that like?
Well, so we've been going there for so many years, and the biggest thing that I notice is that, for example, when you go into a community, like I said, there's maybe like 1,500 to 2,000 men, women, and children. So when we get there, we're always greeted and swarmed by kids and elders and teachers, and it's always just a wonderful celebration. And in the newer communities, so the ones that we're just starting to work in, what you notice distinctly is the children are much dirtier, and their eyes may be jaundiced, and they're just brand new, so they probably still don't have clean water, or just all of the other education, because it's more than just infrastructure that we're providing. It's education, teaching them about the importance of boiling water until they get clean water, and just basic. There's a thing called 12 tenets of a healthy home. And just basic things like make sure you have a dish rack, so that the dishes can completely dry. And the dish racks are made outside with wood, and don't throw your laundry over trees because they get insects. It's like it's really basic information, but it really impacts the quality of their life. So every year when we go back, you see the children are getting healthier. You're seeing the mamas, the development of their training, and each year there's more who are participating, and they're starting to be able to earn an income, and then they're able to help, buy their children shoes or, goats, or you just see the community change over the next 5 years to see it being implemented.
Right. And so I guess you mentioned that you're now doing this in India as well. I mean, what are the next things you guys are looking forward to? What are the next big plans?
Right. So we're doing the same model with our partners in India. And then we're very excited about that. And we're working in an area, again, just like the Masai Mara and the Sub-Sahara, where there's huge need in that particular area of the world. So we're very excited. And then our girls are now graduating from high school, so our partners are building the first ever technical school in the entire Masai Mara, and it will support young men and women to be able to go to college. So we, as the Unstoppable Foundation, will be funding all of the scholarships. It's going to be a boarding school, and we're funding the curriculum, the boarding, the mentorship, and then we're also bringing in empowerment and leadership curriculum to really assist them so that when they graduate, they have the skills, not only the former skills, but then the other skills that they need to really be successful in their business. And then we're also doing one other thing locally. Our partners, our implementing partners in Kenya and India is Free the Children, and they have a thing called We Day. And We Day is essentially, it's the culmination of a year-long curriculum in which girls and boys learn about being a global citizen. So they learn, what is your passion? What is your spark? How do you give back locally? How do you give back globally? And obviously this helps them develop in their leadership skills and all sorts of things. But they're coming to Los Angeles. So we're going to be sponsoring schools to get this curriculum and to really train kids on how to be global citizens. So we're really excited about that, and it's such a perfect program for us on a local level to get involved in, because we're supporting children to be the change that they want to be. It's like,
Sure.
and they're so excited and inspired to do that. They actually have one. Well, you're in St. Louis. I think they had the closest might be, I think they're for sure in Minneapolis.
Uh-huh.
So I know that's not exactly next door.
Too, yeah. I mean, maybe Chicago as well.
Yeah, right.
And so when you do these things, how does your organization get its funding?
Yeah, so basically all of our funding comes from essentially individuals or organizations. So we have a couple of large donors who have known me and the organization from the very beginning, and they essentially fund all of our any overhead, any which is low anyway, but any, of our costs, even our domestic programming, they fund so that when we raise money, like for example, with your $25,000, all of it went to that international Sponsor a Village program. So
right.
We're really lucky and grateful to be able to have that offer, because we have people who believe in us and have seen us grow and have stepped up in that way. So it's kind of cool to know that when you're donating money, it's all going to where you hope it will be going, and then we provide reports. I know that you've seen the report and the picture of your school and just see how the community is expanding.
Oh, absolutely. It's great.
Yeah.
I still want those Dale Wiley High School Letterman jackets, so
yeah, right. Yeah, they're in the mail.
There you go. But there are people who will pledge their birthday
to
raise money.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So basically, I started this whole thing with Kenya. Really started for me with my birthday party. And what I know is that a lot of people, it's a lot of work to put on a big birthday party. So we have a whole fundraising site called My Unstoppable Challenge. You can get to it there, either myunstoppablechallenge.com or .org, or you can get it through unstoppablefoundation.org. But essentially, you can pick a day and say, do I really need another birthday gift? There was this one woman who, she got so many gifts, she didn't even want to open them. And I don't know about you, but I am not a thing person. I don't like getting a lot of stuff. I feel like it's a waste of money. I don't want it. What am I going to do with it? And so this allows you to really use your birthday. We have somebody who is getting married. They called it a giving moon. They're raising money for their wedding. It could be a graduation. But using a day, any day, and saying and inviting your friends, listen, don't give me any gifts. Let's together make a difference in the lives of children and their families around the world. So we make it really simple. And again, you'll get an update on what community your money is being assigned to, and then to be able to kind of see the progress.
And then, of course, we don't want to forget kind of the glitzy fun thing as well. You guys have a kind of a black tie gala in March every year. So
we do, and it's like a black tie optional. So, but you always look so handsome in your tux, and definitely you should post a picture, Dale. You look fabulous. But yeah, it's March the 19th this year, and it's in Los Angeles. And again, it's just people, and you've been there, so you could probably speak to this more than me, but people tell me that it's not just a typical gala. It's inspiring, and people can really see the work, and they see why we're there, and what they can make possible. So, we have a lot of Jack Canfield calls it the what does he call it? The Grammys, or the Oscars of the personal development industry. So there's a lot of people there. And then we have more, a lot of NFL players and, celebrities and people who have joined us in our cause. So it's a really fun, inspiring evening where you're making a difference, and having fun together. So we would love for people to come to that. Go to unstoppablegala.org for more information on that.
And the thing that I would say about it is if someone would decide that they wanted to go to that, you're going to meet people who are genuinely interested in who you are and how you came there and everything else. It's not the kind of thing where everybody's just kind of ignoring each other. There's a genuine sense that people are interested to know your story and your connection to it. I would definitely say that.
Yeah, thank you. I've had people who've met their future spouses there. I've had people who've made partnerships and business deals. I've met Muhammad Yunus. There's so many things that people have benefited by being a part of it. And I think the whole law of giving and receiving. It's like when you give, you receive tenfold. So it's just truly a great group of people who come every year, and we hope to see you again this year too.
Well, I'm seeing if I can make that happen, because it sure is a fun thing. So
yeah, awesome.
Well, this has just been great. I've just always admired the things that you do, and just the tremendous energy that you give out, and the wonderful people that are receiving that. So I'm just glad you could make some time to be on here, and hopefully some people will want to go and learn more about this.
Well, thank you so much. And again, it's unstoppablefoundation.org. And Dale, I really appreciate, you were the first, really the only person that wrote me a check on an airplane. So I'm still looking for that second person. But it it was such a beautiful example of how, the money's already there. So it's like, how you just really showed up in such a beautiful way and have now become a wonderful friend. So I just honor you for who you are in the world and your heart and how you make a difference. Really, you're just you inspire me.
Well, thank you, and I hope to see you again in March. And,
good.
And thank you for your time. And we'll make sure to post lots of links to all of these ways that people can get involved.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Cynthia Kersey. To find out more about her work, we've posted links at DaleWileyShow.net. Go there, buy some books, throw some money. Copyright 2016.